So a movie has been witnessed by my very own eyes, the most recent video game to movie adaptation, which is the long-awaited Tomb Raider reboot. Now here's a disclaimer, I am not a fan of the games, I've played the older ones in the past, but for some reason couldn't get behind one single game, but I can see why people love it. Also, I love the actress Alicia Vikander, loved her in Ex Machina, and other movies that's not Ex Machina. So I wanted to give this movie a chance since video game movies don't have the best track record, as mostly said by every single channel here on YouTube. And I was quite surprised on how absolutely boring it was. Now, I was expecting some bad, cringe shit, but I didn't expect it to be so uninteresting and overall pretty lifeless and pointless. This is ultimately Lara Croft's origin story, how she becomes the legend of the Tomb Raider. And for any formulaic origin story, as we see in most superhero movies nowadays, we need the setup. The way they set up her character feels very rushed to where it's showing how many curricular activities she's involving herself with instead of really building her up as an actual character. I can imagine the games does that pretty well since the storytelling in the game is very much different as compared to, movies or television shows. We barely get to know her internal conflicts, which are her struggling at the fact that her father left her for an unknown reason to her, which is a major plot point of the movie. But trade that out and you get a good 7-minute sequence of dudes chasing her on a bike playing Catch the Fox or some shit. Usually some plot points such as that, it will be pretty useful later on in the movie. Maybe like an action sequence that'll have her drive a motorcycle or something and evading imminent danger. But this movie never really brings that skill up ever again. The whole useless bike chase scene through the city was shot horribly, but that's one thing you're gonna see for the rest of the movie. Just tons of shaky cam action scenes. She eventually stumbles across the secret life of her father, meets up with a guy that knew him back in the day, and from there, you have the newest, long-awaited Lara Croft adventure that many Tomb Raider fans have been waiting for. If I had to say one positive thing about the movie, it's definitely Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft. She really did try to bring this character to life on the big screen like the best she could with the script she's been given. I would say she's a lot better than Angelina Jolie's, which I thought was captured pretty well on how Lara Croft was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, just the overall look of the character back then. Then Square Enix stepped in, rebooted the whole franchise with the video game Rise of the Tomb Raider, and changed the overall look of Lara Croft. Which my knowledge ends right there because I never played the game, hence why I said I wasn't a huge fan of the Tomb Raider games to begin with, which I'm sure this movie was more geared towards the fans of the game, but I'm judging this movie based on how the filmmaking was presenting itself, and it's not good. You had a very rushed intro that made it very difficult to get behind Lara Croft as an actual character, and from the moment she starts figuring out who her dad really was, that's when the movie starts picking it up a bit. Yet the movie manages to be pretty uninteresting since at this point, they introduce a guy named Lou Ren, I think that was his name, and all that's really towards his character is that he knew Lara Croft's father. He's a fisherman, and the villain killed his dad in the past. Which I understand if you're not going into this movie expecting some great, elaborate character pieces that would stand the test of time in the world of cinema, sometimes audiences are looking just for the action. The action was honestly directed horribly, possibly one of the worst parts about the movie. When there's CGI present, whenever Alicia Vikander is flying through trees or jumping off cliffs, it's very clear it's CG. I don't know if it was me or the movie, but whenever she would do some outrageous CG stunt, it's as if they blurred out her entire face and body to try and hide the fact that it was CG. And in the end, it just absolutely looked awful. But then we get to some practical action where she's fighting dudes off with her fists and her feet, and you as the audience are once again attacked by shitty shaky cam to hide the fact that these are stunt doubles that the movie's using. And it's like this through the whole movie. Like I said before, imagine getting what I just described for another hour and a half at this point. As far as the story goes, she comes across a group of bad guys that are trying to tomb raid a burial site of an ancient woman, according to mythology, who was like the goddess of death. She was the same woman that Lara Croft's father has been searching for, and the bad guys are after the same thing as well, because they're doing it for a company that Walton Goggins is working for. Now, it eventually gets to a part of the movie where Lara Croft finds her father. He's still alive. She tries to rescue her fisherman friend and all the people this evil company is taking hostage. There has been many opportunities where Lara can easily kill Walton Goggins, such as her sneaking into his tent and could fire an arrow at this guy. He would have been dead, but now we have to keep him throughout the entire movie because the script says so. They get to the tomb they've been looking for this entire movie. Lara Croft, her father, the group of baddies enter inside the tomb and do this whole Indiana Jones Last Crusade thing, which is probably one of the more entertaining parts of the movie. We see all these different parts of this big ass tomb, and these characters are tested through these certain obstacles. And like I said, it's very much like Indiana Jones. The production design is pretty good, just like how most of this movie has, but you just really don't give two shits about any of these characters that's not Lara Croft. Lara Croft even kills a guy by luring him into a trap, which is confusing as fuck, because considering this is her first time, like the first time that anybody has over 1,000 years have entered inside this tomb, but she magically knows where this trap is to kill this guy? There's even zombies at the end after they open the cursed tomb, which I've heard some ridiculous things coming from like the old Tomb Raider games, how Lara Croft is fighting dinosaurs and even some ghosts, which is weird, but I guess it caters towards the fans. And then Laura wins, she kills Walton Goggins, her father dies, and then it's setting up for a sequel because, you gotta have a sequel. And that's basically the end of the movie. I've never felt like a whole heap of nothing after watching an action movie in my entire life. As I'm describing some of the movie, I'm beginning to forget most of the stuff that's even happened due to the fact that how boring it really was. I say don't see the Tomb Raider in theaters. Go check it out on Netflix once it gets that release. Use it as background noise, or if you want to fall asleep. It's basically all I have to say about the new Tomb Raider. Thanks for listening, and talk to you guys next time.